Welcome to the Global Businesswomen's Pod, hosted by the Greater Houston Women's Chamber of Commerce. I am Susan Dyson and extremely excited to be your podcast host. In my day job, I am proud to be the CEO, President, and founder of the Chamber. Every Thursday at 6 p.m., we will bring you inspiring stories of women who are leading in the advancement of women and girls. We will take you with us to our premier events. You will meet entrepreneurs, executives, and philanthropists who will empower and inspire you to succeed. So please mark your calendars and join us for the Empowering Global Businesswomen's Pod, Thursday at 6 p.m.
We are so excited to have Dr. Jenny Chang with us today to share a little bit about her journey and a little bit more about her. So, Dr. Chang, I know we all have things, sometimes we look back and say, gosh, I would have done that differently if I'd have known this or that. Is there anything that you can think of in your career that you may have done that you would like to do differently if you had the chance?
Thank you very much, Suzanne, for the question. I think that, obviously, in retrospect, there are many things one may have done differently if one is reflective and introspective. I think the primary thing I may have done differently would have been a work-life balance. I do think that we can learn a lot from our millennial counterparts and colleagues. I do think that the work-life balance issue where, taking time to take care of yourself, taking time to look after yourself, these are critical issues. And I think that this does actually, in the long term, life is more about a marathon. It's about smelling the roses. This is about contribution and impact. It's about legacy. And that takes time, and it takes, self-care. And I think especially today, in light of the pandemic, in light of the multiple stresses that a lot of women are going through, not only in the work, with their homes, with their children, in balancing the two, I do think that this is something probably, if I had a younger self that I could speak to, that would be something I would say.
I think we all, especially the pandemic, I think gave us another mirror to really see what's important in life and or to remind us. And so I agree. And I think that's probably a fault more of the baby boomers, that, like women of my age, that we felt like that we had to be super, in the office to be able to excel. So I do agree with you. So that's wonderful. So hopefully we'll be able to, in our next chapter, be able to have more of a work-life balance, if there is such a thing. So, and I know that you've had many throughout the years. So please share with us any mentor or sponsor that you had. And we would also like to hear about the role your mom and dad played in your career choice and your career journey, whether if it was your mother or your father that had more influence on you as far as your career, and then also influence on you personally.
For sure. So I think I've had a very fortunate life in that, I've had many people who believed in me. I do remember my sixth grade teacher who, I did quite like English literature, and she did always tell me that I would always be very good at crafting a tale and writing a novel. That has yet to come, but, I do remember her very well. And she was very instrumental in her belief in me, and setting me up. At that time, I was having way too much fun, actually, in high school, and she did set me on the right path. But I think throughout my life, both my mom and dad have played equal roles. I come from a traditional Asian family. I was brought up initially in Singapore, and at that time, there was a lot of emphasis primarily in the male progeny, my brothers, because it's traditional. But my mom and dad have always believed in equal opportunities in education for women. And as such, I come from a very big family. All the girls had graduate education, and they were completely sponsored by my parents. And there was a belief and a great difference at that time, that we were given the chance, and I was given the chance to go abroad. I was educated in the United Kingdom. I went to a medical school in London, in England, and completed most of my training there. And that was a great opportunity, and it comes from both of them. Sacrifices that they both made in believing that we could do it, in hoping that the next generation will have a better life. And I think that, to that I'll be very grateful. And, it seems to be such a long time ago, but it was just so very, very real still. This journey through leaving Singapore, going to the United Kingdom, going to medical school in Cambridge and doing all my education there. And again, I could not have done it without people around you to give you an environment. I think, we are all a village. It takes a village to basically to raise children, to be part of a community. And again, I think to re-emphasize the great importance today in self-love, in care for the community, in kindness, as we try and battle through what it seems to be a very divided time, a very difficult time when it comes to adjusting to the pandemic, in adjusting to the new ways in which we manage work and life, flexible work hours for women, ability to basically be a little bit more flexible in bringing out the best in all of us, so that as a community we'll get through the pandemic and actually strive to something more, better, and different.
I think all of us that have just lived in one place our whole life are really in awe of people that can pick up and move to another country. And you've done it twice now. So share a little bit about the differences of Singapore and here and what you miss the most.
Well, I left Singapore way too long ago. I left as a teenager. So I went to, school all in the UK. So the difference between the United Kingdom, which I spent most of my young adulthood, most of my life before I came here, about 20 years in the UK and 20 years here. The UK is a very different system. The medicine is socialized medicine and has its advantages and disadvantages. The advantages are obviously there is a safety net for the underserved, there's a safety net for the indigent, and those that cannot pay. That's the pros, and the cons obviously is the long wait times, perhaps less access to cutting edge technologies and medicines. I think culturally there is no comparison between England and Texas, which is obviously a country unto itself. Very different ways of life, but with great beauty in both, just very different ways. But at the end, I truly believe that we're more or less, all of us are, we strive for similar things. We strive for harmony. We strive to leave something meaningful. We try in our work life to have something that is meaningful. And I think that's all. There are some similarities and some differences. So I'm extremely grateful for my life. Every day I feel very blessed by being given the opportunity to be a physician, being given the honor to being able to take care of patients, to have a wonderful work environment in Houston Methodist, where truthfully we have very collegial work environment, non-toxic, where we have a lot of fun in our jobs. So all those things, really, truly, I cannot begin to say how blessed I feel. But it is they're both fantastic places to live, and hey, I love to embrace challenges, and the more challenges, let's see what happens.
We are that you chose the U.S. We hope that this is home now for you. What a role model you are too for women that are looking at their career choices right now. So, and organizations like the Chamber of Commerce could not exist without volunteers. And I know you believe in volunteering and what it does for you personally. Would you share a little bit about how it's helped you in your career and also how it's helped you personally to give back?
Sure. I think in volunteering, there are enormous needs within the medical health system in Houston. And one of the earliest things that we did was to try and establish breast cancer screening by inviting and partnering with the Susan G. Komen, as well as the Avon Foundation, in bringing screening for the indigent here. And that effort and the collaboration has now, through Houston Methodist, extended and to a greater platform. We continue to work very closely with Susan G. Komen, the Rose Foundation, in bringing screening to many, many women in various parts. For me, as the director of the Cancer Center, the Neal Cancer Center, outreach is one of the most important pillars of my responsibilities and my commitment. The Neal Cancer Center and its outreach program, which is led by Dr. Jane Boland, we've begun many cancer screening programs targeting areas and people that basically have no means of getting cancer screening. Today, we are concentrating on several pockets, including East Texas, to increase cancer screenings, both in terms of breast cancer, cervical cancer, GI, and prostate. So as we move forward, we want to be able to actually do a deeper dive using big data to figure out the populations we need to increase our services to, so that we can actually altogether collectively drive down not only the incidence, but also the mortality associated with breast cancer and all other cancers.
And that's just another reminder of how we all need to be screened. And if you don't have insurance or the means to pay for it, there are opportunities here in the city. And thanks to you and your volunteer efforts at Methodist, I know there's a lot of organizations that can really provide opportunities for women to be screened at no cost. So thank you so much.
Definitely.
For that. Yes. And, when we're looking back at our career and thinking of accomplishments, which we probably don't do it very often, but if you, in looking back, what are maybe 2 or 3 of the accomplishments that you're especially proud of that you could share with us?
Again, I think, what is one's legacy is hopefully it won't be that great, but I think that one of my greatest pleasures in life and one of my greatest moments of joy would be to be part of Houston Methodist and helping build this Neal Cancer Center. It is a phenomenal cancer center that is very mindful of patients' needs, that put patients front and center. And the whole ethos of being a partner with our patient as he or she walks through this terrible time, and being part of the family, being there for the family, is, I think, again, the core of who we are. And I think that my legacy would be probably the founding director of the Neal Cancer Center, and that would be something I'm very proud of the Neal Cancer Center and what we have accomplished. And the lesser blessings that I have received in my life is, obviously, I'm being very, very blessed in having a wonderful academic career, finding new therapeutic targets, finding new drugs, and taking that into the clinic. It's a wonderful feeling and sensation. And finally, and by far not the least, if not front and center, again, are these wonderful trainees that we have, the physicians that we have trained here in Houston Methodist, as well as our scientists, that will be the next generation of leaders and physician scientists, both male and female, that will basically drive the ship forward when we are long gone, hopefully leaving the core essence of what Houston Methodist and the Neal Cancer Center stands for, which is compassionate care for everybody, regardless of their means to pay, within our catchment area and hopefully beyond.
Well, I know that we, as women, love to give advice, whether people listen to us or not. But if you were visiting with someone that was just entering the workforce or in the medical field, or women that are looking at reestablishing and re-entering the workforce, what advice would you give them?
Probably the same advice initially. I think self-care. I have one trainee. She's an MD PhD student, extraordinarily brilliant, and she was getting, obviously, as all women do, as you know, very passionate about her work and her family, and she was getting all burnt out. And basically, my advice to her was, it's a long way, and there are. Especially as an MD PhD, it's a long career that spans decades. And in hindsight, being 2020, the advice I gave her was, again, to my younger self, I would have paced myself a little bit more, and I would have taken more time to smell the roses. I would have taken more time to spend with family, and I think those things, because in the long run, you can probably contribute more, prevent burnout, increase resiliency, and be more impactful if you just realize that there are many things you can't control. And as women, we never think of that. We think we can control everything, but it's true, we can't control everything. And really, it sounds so trite, but to count our enormous blessings that we have, and be grateful and joyful every day that we have been given an opportunity to be here, to contribute, to help, and just be kind to yourself, maybe first and foremost.
Great advice. I know that you've mentioned your siblings a couple of times. So are any of your siblings in the medical field? And share a little bit, the ones that you are still in touch with or that live here too as well, and maybe how your career paths have gone the same, parallel, or if they're different.
I come from a family that are there are very many different careers. I do have very close family who are in the medical field. My brother happens to just have run the Boston Marathon, and he will be very pleased for me to say that this is his 64th marathon, and he's just completed it in Boston. And he's an orthopedic surgeon in Singapore. And I have cousins and close relatives here in Houston who are in the medical field, in the cancer field. But overall, we've had similar paths, divergent paths, but again, very blessed by our parents believing in us, especially at our time, in our generation, for them believing in us as daughters, and giving us the ability and understanding that we can do that, we can do this with their support, and that, again, I will always be grateful for that.
Every year, the Chamber plans an international trip to encourage women in other countries to start women's chambers in their respective cities. And we do have plans to go to Singapore. So I hope that you will join us when we plan it. It will probably be 2024 before we feel like that we'll be able to have that opportunity. But we'll circle back to you.
For sure.
Then. So. And I know
Singapore's beautiful. You will totally enjoy Singapore. It was very beautiful.
That's what I understand. And they say the people are amazing too. So we can't wait to go.
The food.
Oh, the food too. So is there a restaurant here, speaking of food, that you enjoy, or have you kind of forgotten that cuisine?
Singapore food? No, yeah. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
it doesn't export well.
Doesn't export. Okay. That's, I know, just like Tex-Mex, I'm always glad to get back to Texas because I don't know that anybody can duplicate it. So
it doesn't export. Tex-Mex does not export well either.
Oh, I know. Well, and I know you've touched a little bit in your talk today about your legacy and all, and how you want to be remembered. But why don't you sum it up for us again in a few sentences about how you want to be remembered?
I've been very fortunate in my life, and I think that looking back, I would like to be remembered for my contribution in Houston Methodist, a part of a great organization that is forging forward, taking care of a huge patient population, taking care of the whole of Houston in the wide area that is called Houston, with our multiple hospitals, and putting, again, care for the patient as front and center of everybody, everything that we do. The legacy that Houston Methodist has, and how I am part of this. I'm a little part of this big, machinery to take care of our city, our people, and hopefully both in cancer care, in care of everybody, in the care of the whole patient, as well as the education of the next generation of physicians and physician scientists.
I know there are so many adjectives that would describe you, Dr. Chang. But I know we were asking you to come up with one word that best describes you as a breakthrough woman. Would you share that with us?
If I can use two, I would. Blessed and perseverance.
Thank you for watching the Global Businesswomen's Pod, brought to you by the Greater Houston Women's Chamber of Commerce. We cannot wait to see you next Thursday at 6 p.m. And remember, you can always find us at GHWCC.org.